Hello and welcome to this edition of CityLine. I'm Jeff Leaders, sitting in for Amanda Westbrook. We have a great show for you today, 4 segments, including Dukes Bay Productions, Tacoma Opera, and Puget Sound Heart and Stroke Walk. But starting first is one of the new faces on the City Council is Council Member at Large, Position 7, Olgy Diaz, and welcome to CityLine.
Thank you.
So Olgy, you were recently sworn in on the City Council in Tacoma. What inspired you to run?
I wasn't planning on it, but I did run for office back in 2013. I ran for the District 5 seat and didn't quite get there, but got my feet wet in city politics and how that works. So I was living my life thinking about what my next steps were generally in my career, and I saw that Councilmember McCarthy had stepped down, and a couple friends called me like, oh, is this the time? Are we going to do it? And I was like, oh, wow, I was truly not there. So I thought, the city's got a lot going on right now. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of challenges, a lot of work to be done, and I thought, if I'm already thinking about what my next steps are, this sounds like a great one. Let me put my hat in the ring and see what the council says, see if there's good opportunity there for me. And turns out me and 43 other folks decided to do so, and the council chose me, so I'm really honored. It's exciting, and yeah, I want to get to work on all these issues we have ahead of us.
Very good. Well, as an at-large council member, you represent the city as a whole rather than as an individual district. What are the challenges and opportunities of that?
I think it's a really, really cool opportunity to work at large. I get to sort of take that more 50,000 foot level, look at what's going on citywide. I obviously live in a neighborhood. I've always lived sort of south of 16. So I've got kind of South Tacoma, South End on my mind all the time. But all the gems of Tacoma are also in the North End, right? There's Rec Park, there's all the businesses, 6th Ave. There's so many good, fun places to work and play all over the city that it's a really cool vantage point to sort of look broader, help our friends in the districts or colleagues, and work on everyone's priorities. I'm also serving on one of the cross-business associations as a liaison from the city, and so I'm excited to look at some of those small business priorities broader and really pull out and see what we can do for everyone.
Sure.
It's a very cool opportunity.
Now, you mentioned priorities. Mm-hmm. Can you share what your priorities are?
Yeah, so I am really excited about getting to work with small businesses, seeing what the city can do to help make sure there's more opportunity. I think during the pandemic, there was a lot of folks who started opening small businesses, try to figure out how we get more of those folks in the pipeline to get brick and mortars or to expand their businesses. I think a lot of folks started selling stuff from home, already people sell things on Etsy, things like that, and I'd love to see how much more we can get here in Tacoma, get them to blossom, see what the barriers are, see what we need to expand their opportunities. I'm also really excited about some of the policies we have coming down the pike around tree canopy. I joined the Infrastructure Planning and Sustainability Committee to try and work on our zoning and our housing and our general greenscape. We got to get this air a little cleaner for the kids. Want to leave them something nicer than our rock that's on fire. And I'm also on the Economic Development Committee to try and work on those small businesses and see what we can do with the chamber to expand some of the really cool programs that they and the city we've been partnering on for years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So previously you served on the Human Rights Commission. How was that experience? And then how can residents serve their community here in Tacoma?
The Human Rights Commission was an amazing opportunity for me. It was some of the early efforts that got the Project Peace project going was when I was on that commission. It was the first time I got to be here on a CityLine. So I've only done the couch once, and it was actually with that hat on to talk about the work that we were doing there, and that was really cool. So I think it's a great stepping stone for people who want to get involved in sort of formal city work, get involved in staying in the know. I think one of the coolest parts about serving on that commission was you got access to a lot of city staff and resources, and so you just kind of knew more about what was going on in a different way once you're in the room, and they've got different updates from different folks talking about the nearest community group or the next big event that's happening. It was always really good way to stay engaged at the local level since so many people live here but work elsewhere. It was a great way to stay plugged in.
Nice. Now, next year is an election year for some of the city council seats. What would you say to someone who's considering running for office?
Do it. It's fun. I think democracy is better when there's more people involved, especially when we get folks who don't necessarily have a government background or different kinds of governing styles. We get a lot of, it's kind of a ripple effect. When someone decides to step up and run, their parents may not have that kind of exposure, their friends may not have that kind of exposure, their family. And so I think it's a really cool way to get folks excited about voting and excited about government and excited about what opportunities there are and what their new fresh solutions might be.
Sure.
And it helps move the dialogue for whoever does end up winning. We can't all win, but I think that there's something important about making sure we push the needle in all directions.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how do your constituents contact you?
I've got a city email. It's Diaz, ODIAZ at cityoftacoma.org. I know I've got a city cell phone, so folks, I think y'all can probably put up the phone number. I know I've seen it on the city scroller, so please feel free to call, text me there, email me if that's a communication method folks have. I know not everybody has good emailing capacity. My mom could never email me, so by all means, I'm out here. Please come find me.
Sure. So what do you do in your spare time?
I don't have a lot of spare time, so it's a great question. I keep a lot of house plants. My house is very green. Turns out that's a lot of work sometimes, depending on what kind of plant it is. I've also got a dog. And I serve on a lot of actually boards myself still. I'm still trying to figure out how I balance my work life and my part-time council life and all of my other commitments. But I serve on boards to help people get more civically engaged. And yeah, I like to help make sure other people can run for office. If that's something you're interested in, please reach out to me about that too. I'd love to see folks try.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, someone tipped me off that you have a Chiweenie, so you need to tell me what that is.
Oh yeah, she's a little sausage dog about this big, solid 10 pounds when grandma's giving her too many treats. She is half Chihuahua, half mini Dachshund. So the Chi being Chihuahua, the Weenie being mini sausage weenie. So Chiweenie. It's not really an AKC brand or anything. She's just a nice foster that I adopted. But I think hopefully maybe someday it'll be a real breed, whatever that means. But she's just perfect, little sleepy tiny bagel donut.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Well, I did want to touch on one subject that we haven't touched on. You are the first Latina to be on the council. What does that mean to you and for the community?
I think it's a really exciting opportunity for the community. Certainly for me, I think it's a responsibility for me much more than it is anything else. But for the community, I think it's a really good gateway to see themselves in these kinds of roles. I think it's really helpful to folks who want to do this in the future. I think it's also really helpful for me, for specifically being a Latina. I do actually speak Spanish, so I'm bilingual, so that's an access opportunity that I saw. I know when I was running, it was really good to be able to just talk to people, meet them where they're at in the language that they speak at home, and sometimes that's English, sometimes that's Spanish. I took probably a year of Portuguese in college a long time ago, so I don't know that I could quite get there, but it's Spanish adjacent, so I could try. But I think that it helps with language access to be bilingual, no matter what your background is. But for me, I think that's part of the fun. It's being in spaces where I think they haven't always had a council member be able to sort of directly talk with them if English isn't their first language. And so that's been really cool, really rewarding work for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, with the makeup of the council right now, a majority of women, and how do you feel how has it been working with your colleagues?
It's great. I happen to be of the school of thought that I believe it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that there'll be enough women on the Supreme Court when it's all of them. So I mean, don't get me wrong, men are great, but y'all have had a good go at most reigns of government for a long time. So I think having a majority female council is a fun opportunity to see how we all dig in, pull up our sleeves, dig in, do the work in ways that are just gendered and different. I also happen to be the second now, since Ryan Mello left, queer council member. So it's a good opportunity to sort of look at all the different vantage points that folks are living their lives in the city and see what we can bring up to light, what we can prioritize from my own lived experience, from those of other folks, having, I think, a little bit more sympathy and empathy for what folks go through, that it may not be with my background, but you got to represent everybody. And I think looking for solutions that work for us all is really important and helpful. And I think that's what my council colleagues and I try to do.
Sure. Now, this week started the first look at the 2023-2024 budget. Any initial thoughts?
I've got a very big binder to study. I keep joking. Since I started, it felt like I started school in the middle of the school year right before the big test. So I was still learning. I spent most of last month just learning all the budget areas, all the departments, kind of in that in deeper with department directors. Now I've got a nice big budget binder to go through line by line. I actually love budgets. I think that they're a really important values document. I think the city managers put forth a good solid proposal that we can all kind of look at, make sure that our priorities are upheld, and plan for, particularly what I'm excited about is all the federal money that's coming down. There's been a lot of really exciting infrastructure bills and other projects that the federal government has actually moved, which is a little rare. And so I think the city, I just want to make sure that we're well poised to leverage some of that money and match it and really bring that money into our neighborhoods, fix our streets, get people access to more services. I think there's a ton of need out there. So the more that we can leverage our $1 and make it go further, I think it's better for our taxpayers and it's better for our city.
Yeah.
So excited for those opportunities in there.
No, I totally appreciate that. And there are a lot of challenges, but like you say, there are a lot of federal dollars heading our way and to cities across the country. And so it's up to people like you to be the councils that are going to drive the improvements to the communities for the future. So Olgy Diaz, Council Member at Large, Position 7, we just thank you for your time today here on CityLine.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here.
And we'll be back with the Puget Sound Heart and Stroke Walk in just a moment.